What about Albania during the Second World War? Albania was conquered by Italy in 1939. When Italy surrendered in 1943, Germany took over the country. They established a Waffen-SS formation that became known as the first Waffen Mountain Division of the SS Skanderbeg, 1st Albanian. It became a notorious group of thugs that committed atrocities against the local Serbian population. In this video, you're going to learn about Albanian collaboration with the Axis powers in World War II. Good to have you back on the channel. If you're new, my name is Stefan. I'm a Dutch history teacher and I make videos about history. If you find it interesting, consider subscribing, hit the notification bell. You can also support me via Patreon, PayPal, or via a super thanks. You can all find the information below. On this channel we have not talked much about Albanian history. When 1939 came around, Albania was a kingdom with King George I on the throne. By that time, Albania underwent much Italian influence that had started in the 1920s. When Czechoslovakia was dismembered and Czechia became a German-controlled protectorate, Mussolini made plans to make Albania his protectorate. On the 7th of April 1939, the Italian invasion of Albania began. Despite some local resistance here and there, especially at the coastal town of Durrës, the Italians seized control over the country without much problems as King George fled to Greece. The Italians, they transformed Albania into a miniature version of the Italian fascist state. Although the ministers of the state were Albanian, they were supervised by Italians. And officials had to be a member of the newly found Albanian Fascist Party, the only political party allowed. Towards the end of 1940, Mussolini invaded Greece from Albania. But the Greeks, they put up a stubborn defense and drove the Italians back into Albania, capturing its southern regions. When Hitler invaded Yugoslavia and Greece simultaneously in 1941, Albania came back under Italian control. As Yugoslavia was partitioned by the Axis powers, Hitler and Mussolini agreed to form a so-called Greater Albania. And to explain this, I'll show you this map. The Italian Protectorate of Albania was awarded with parts of today's Montenegro, Serbia and North Macedonia. And the biggest part of today's Kosovo became part of this version of Greater Albania. And the reason for this was that these regions were inhabited with a large amount of Albanian people. The Italians were able to exploit Albanian irredentist sentiment by insisting that the unification of all the Albanian inhabited lands was conditional upon an Axis victory. As a result of this, the most enthusiastic support for the Italian regime came from Kosovo. I talked about Kosovo during World War II in another video. Now, as the war progressed and the Italian armies were suffering defeat after defeat, bringing the war closer to home, the morale of the occupying troops began to plummet. Italy surrendered in September 1943. The Germans then rushed in and took over Albania. The Germans made a genuine effort to make the Albanian people believe they had some kind of autonomy. And Albania was spared much of the atrocities that were carried out by the Germans in neighboring Yugoslavia. No efforts were made to forcefully recruit Albanian men for the German war effort. But make no mistake, the Germans also carried out brutal reprisals in Albania, just as they did in neighboring Yugoslavia and Greece. Let's look at collaboration. In April 1939, the Albanian Fascist Party was founded with its paramilitary wing, the Albanian Fascist Militia. At least 2 battalions of Albanian Fascist Militia fought against the Greeks. Behind the lines, Albanian spies and saboteurs harassed the Greeks, but this was limited. An important organization that collaborated was the Bali Kombëtar, known as the National Front, also known as the BK or the Ballists, which actually started as a resistance group, just like the Chetniks in Yugoslavia. See, the Ballists were nationalist-oriented and anti-communist. And this greatly complicated the situation, as there were 2 other resistance groups in Albania, the Communists and the Legality Movement. The latter sought to restore the monarchy of King George. Historian Jürgen Fischer wrote the following about the Ballists. Although the evidence of widespread collaboration is extensive, to condemn roundly all elements of the BK as quislings would be a disservice to many. The principal danger of explaining BK makeup is the ease with which almost anything can be proved about them. Most BK members denounced collaboration, and whenever a BK member collaborated, the organization would either deny that the offending party was even affiliated with the BK or denounce them openly, but keep contact with them clandestinely. The ballists of the BK terrorized many non-Albanians. In the winter of 1943-44, over 10,000 Serbian families fled from Greater Albania into Serbia. The most notorious form of Albanian collaboration was the establishment of the SS Skanderbeg-Division. How did this division came about? Reichsführer SS Heinrich Himmler was in favor of setting up a strong local collaborationist unit. On the 17th of April 1944, he sanctioned the establishment of an Albanian Waffen-SS unit. Albanians from both Albania proper and Kosovo were to be recruited. The vast majority of the Waffen-SS divisions bore honor names, and the Albanian formation was no exception. The name that was chosen was the Albanian national hero Skanderbeg or Skanderbeg. I do notice it's Skanderbeg and not Skanderbeg. I mean, the letter sounds Scandinavian, but it was not Scandinavian. Everywhere Albanians live, this man is being honored. So not only in Albania itself, but also in North Macedonia and Kosovo. Interesting enough, Skanderbeg's sunburst emblem was appropriated by another Muslim Waffen-SS division named Kama. For the Germans, it was clear there was little to no time to train the new recruits. Although D-Day and Operation Bagration laid in the future, the German military was under severe pressure already. An experienced cadre was necessary, but the battles on the Eastern Front had left the Waffen-SS battered and bloody. Many units were either rebuilt or in the process of formation themselves. A decision was made to turn to the SS Handschar Division, an already existing Waffen-SS formation that consisted mostly of Bosnian Muslims. This was a classic case of robbing Peter to pay Paul, as the Handschar itself had only recently become fully operational in its homeland that spring. It was also struggling to fill key vacancies at NCO and officer level, and it was exactly these grades and specialists that were needed to act as the backbone of the Skanderbeg. In essence, strengthening the Skanderbeg would correspondingly weaken the Handschar. And so, ethnic Albanians from Handschar as well as ethnic Germans from the SS Prince Eugen were transferred to fill the ranks of Skanderbeg. It must be remembered that the Waffen-SS originally was intended to be a volunteer elite guard of the Nazi regime with high standards of entry. Now this was not the case anymore. We already saw this back in 1942 when the SS Prince Eugen was established, in which Germans from Yugoslavia were conscripted. Recruitment in Albania was gonna be on a voluntary basis, but from the start there was an element of compulsion. The Albanian puppet government had to submit a list of names of young men that could be suitable. Over 11,000 men were selected, of which over 9,000 were selected and around 6,500 were accepted into the SS Skanderbeg. Interesting to know is that 2/3 came from Kosovo instead of Albania proper. There are two reasons for this. The first reason was that many Albanian Kosovars felt threatened by the Serbian population that either supported the Chetniks or the Yugoslav partisans, and therefore wanted to pick up arms against them to protect their own Albanian population. As Prime Minister of Albania, Mustafa Merlika Kruja stated, "We should endeavor to ensure that the Serb population of Kosovo area be cleansed, and all Serbs who had been living there for centuries should be termed colonialists and sent to concentration camps in Albania. The Serb settlers should be killed." However, the SS Skanderbeg was Muslim dominated. Also, several hundred Albanian Catholics joined the unit. The second reason why most volunteers came from Kosovo instead of Albania proper was that the Albanian government believed it could protect its own Albanians by sending their Albanian cousins from the Kosovo region to the unit. In other words, to shield their own population, a sacrifice of the Albanian Kosovars was necessary. From the start, the SS Skanderbeg was considered a mini division. Desertion became a very big problem because at the time when the division was set up, it was clear that Germany was losing the war. Among its ranks were many so-called fellow travelers who only wanted the benefits of serving in such a unit. And they were not too keen to fight against the battle-hardened Partisans. Initially, the unit was under command by the Austrian SS Brigadeführer Josef Fitzhum. In June, he was replaced by August Schmidhuber, and by the end of July, some 6,000 Albanian Waffen-SS men were left. The soldiers wore Waffen-SS uniforms. They wore field grey and did not wear the Waffen-SS camouflage. As a mountain division, the soldiers wore the SS-type Edelweiss badge on their upper right arm. On the left arm, the national shield was worn below the Nazi eagle emblem. The national shield was a double-headed Albanian eagle. A cuff band with Skanderbeg was also worn. A collar patch was produced with the helmet of Skanderbeg, but there's no evidence that it actually had ever been worn. Similar to the SS Hancha and the SS Kama, they wore the fez. The red one for off-duty and ceremonies, and the grey one for in the field. The formation was equipped with German weapons. When it came down to heavy weaponry, there was a big shortage. It got some obsolete PAK 35-36 guns. Self-propelled assault guns were never delivered. Its morale was poor from the get-go. Like I said, many deserted and many committed rape, pillage and murder against the Serbian population of Kosovo. They also assisted with persecuting the Jewish population of the region. During the Wannsee Conference, it was stated that Albania had only 200 Jews living in its borders. This community was actually protected by the independent status the Germans had conferred on the Albanian state. In addition, Jews from occupied Yugoslavia and Greece came to Albania, and by war's end it had the number 1,800. This policy did not apply for the Jews of Kosovo. On the 14th of May 1944, the SS Skanderbeg executed the Pristina pogrom. Eventually, 281 Jews were arrested by them and deported. Shortly after this, they were thrown into battle against the partisans in the north of Kosovo. With minimal training, they proved very ineffective. Many deserted or committed atrocities against the local Serbian population. Then they were deployed against the partisans during Operation Draufgänger, Germany's last attempt to destroy Tito's growing influence in the northeastern Montenegro and southwestern Serbia. Together with the SS Prince Eugen, they committed the Velika massacre, killing around 500 Serbian civilians. All in all, the men of the SS Skanderbeg were more interested in cleansing the Kosovo region of Serbs than fighting for Germany and winning the war. They basically had their own agenda. As the partisans overran Kosovo, the Albanian collaborators, they put up minimal resistance. Many deserted and went home. Schmidhuber was replaced by Albert Graf in 1944. As Germany's allies, Romania and Bulgaria, switched sides, the Soviet army linked up with the partisans. Early October, the SS Skanderbeg was down to 4,900 men, of whom only 1,500 were fit for combat. The majority of these were ethnic Germans, with only 500 combat-ready Albanians. Some 3,800 of the Kriegsmarine of the Aegean were drafted. German command realized it was a done deal, and on the 1st of November 1944, the SS Skanderbeg was disbanded. Several hundred served in a fighting group that bore the same name, the SS Kampfgruppe Skanderbeg. The unit was used to protect the German escape route from Greece through Albania and Yugoslavia. They were involved in heavy fighting against the partisans. In December 1944, its remnants were absorbed into the SS Prince Eugen. The title of Skanderbeg was given to the SS Freiwilligen Gebirgsjäger Regiment 14, and only a handful of ethnic Albanians served in it. These fought against the Yugoslav partisans and the Red Army. There are reports of some of the Skanderbeg men serving on the Oder front. Skanderbeg veterans that remained in Albania as the partisans took over kept in contact with the Germans via radio. At some point, communications stopped, either because these men went home or because their units were wiped out. Late 1944, the war came to an end in Albania. From October, the Germans started to withdraw from Greece and they pulled out of Albania as well. A battle in Tirana occurred. The Germans had left a full division there to cover the withdrawal. The battle lasted for 2 weeks. On November 17th, Tirana was liberated. Škoda fell on the 29th of November, and with that, Albania was liberated from the Axis powers. The ballists who weren't able to escape were left at the mercy of the partisans. The Soviet Red Army did not take part in the liberation of Albania. The Albanian communist Enver Hoxha set up his government in Tirana. In Kosovo, the partisans, who initially sought a deal with the Albanian collaborators, started to persecute Albanians on a whole, and this led to the Kosovo uprising. After an incident in which a partisan guard was killed, 40 Albanians were executed as a reprisal. Albanians in the ranks of the partisans protested, and they joined hands with the Albanian collaborators and launched the Kosovo uprising that lasted till May 1945. Tito had issued martial law in Kosovo from February that year. If you want to learn about Kosovo during World War II, click here and click here for other non-German Waffen-SS formations. Thank you for watching. See you later.